When last we left the party... Wait, that doesn't apply here, does it?
No.
Um,
When
when
last we left our players,
when last we... Well, no, actually, I mean, when last we left the party, they won! They did it! They successfully beat the universe. No.
Mysteria hasn't done crap. What are you
Mysteria...
talking about?
Well, Mysteria is very integral, along with Galathir... Oh, right, I just realized we have the wrong names up. Whoops. Sorry, this is not your name.
Sorry.
Your name is Third.
Oh.
How do you spell border?
Border.
That's what I did.
And yours.
And this will be Guido, even though he's... I mean, even though Guido has slightly different connotations at this point in history. And this will be Sis. That's your new name, Sis. Congratulations.
Are you seriously putting me up there as Shish?
Yep. So here's Third Guido and Sis. So, this is a little bit of a ensemble, assemble kind of a thing. This is the kind of thing I like to do anyways, especially when starting a new campaign. And I figured, I shouldn't say I figured, Sis had the idea of going ahead and doing this live on camera, which is what we're doing.
Because I am smart.
She has occasional brains every now and again, except when she's talking about frying pans, because she refuses to answer questions about frying pans. That's terrible.
I answered your question about frying pans, and why aren't you just using Mom's frying pan?
Fair
you
enough,
live with
fair
Mom. They have nice frying pans, and you're dumb.
I am pretty dumb. I can't argue that part.
No. So, sorry. He texted me, and he said, how much should I pay for a good frying pan? I'm like,
It seemed
why?
I just wanted a range.
And he goes, because I'm tired of eating microwave foods and basic foods and eating out. I want to save money. I want to cook. I want to introduce, more flavors and stuff in my diet. And I go, why don't you just use Mom's pots and pans? You live with them. And he comes back and he says, well, I don't like touching their things
That is not what I
without
said.
their permission.
That is not what I said.
That's basically what you said.
I can actually pull up that text conversation.
Can we have the receptionist please bring up a transcript? Of the incident?
Transcript coming up. Here
I got it.
I'm
Well, I
kidding.
hate to use their utensils like that. Just like, oh yeah, this is totally mine. Blah ha ha.
That was supposed to be blah ha, but the voice to speech doesn't understand blah for some reason. I don't know why.
I like blah ha ha.
Blah ha ha.
So yeah. And so I was like, use Mom's, wash it when you're done, put it away. They're
Welcome to the
really
new
nice
campaign.
pots and pans.
It's a cooking show.
So I had to threaten him. With calling my mother to tell him that my brother is not family. He's a house guest, and he is long overdue for being kicked out because he has overstayed his welcome.
And then her brother had a bit of a heart attack when she said that.
And he pops back and goes, I'm a house guest? And he actually used a question mark, so I knew he was worried. And I said, no, you idiot, your family acts like it.
Anyways, getting back to Primus. Let's cover some of the basics. First of all, obviously this is going to be a little more sci-fi-y. I just want to address something really quick about that. I know that not everyone thinks this way, and so, which is why I have to mention this. And someone pulled up something in chat, but I can't look at it because doing so will screw up the camera recording. So whatever was just posted in chat, I'll never see it.
That wasn't to you.
Okay.
Oh, you're actually recording yourself this time?
Yeah. No,
Cool.
I'm not on
Oh,
camera.
I should go get my non-broken... I brought my non-broken dice in here. Never mind.
I tend to not think of any difference between sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, obviously there's a genre difference between the two, but in my own writing, I have never put a line in between the two. There's nothing in my mind that says a mage cannot be on a spaceship, right? That's never been a thing for me. And so this is still a fantasy, D&D-esque PnP kind of game. It's just there's going to be spaceships, and it's going to evolve the local system. Now, I've already set up a lot of the history and the backstory for what's going to be going on with regards to the politics and the geographical problems. There's a couple things I wanted to cover with my players and get some of their input and give them a chance to weigh in on this. So, the first thing is there are one of two possible sectors I can put the Primus system in. And both of them make equal amounts of sense. The main difference, one of them is in a is in a sector that is not actually Imperial territory, it is merely imperially monitored. Or one is in Imperial territory, and it should be fairly self-evident what the difference is going to be between those two.
IMO, it wouldn't make sense for them to have put this, given the connotations of what this world was, outside their territory, because if something went wrong, they needed.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want somebody that's not that's not on their side getting a hold of chaos.
No,
letting him loose.
That was the original intention, but it occurred to me we could do something else. And there's going to be some political ramifications either way, but we'll get to that later.
His girlfriend must be at work. My new friend is blowing my phone up.
I'm sorry?
Does anybody have any thoughts? Other than Sis? I mean, Sis gave thoughts. I shouldn't.
My thoughts don't count.
Your thoughts count, Shush.
Well, unless the option where it's not in territory is more of a frontier thing, I think I would probably go for the more in-territory thing anyway.
I mean, you'll have less access to certain tax and certain trade, and you'll be less part of the cosmopolitan galaxy if you're not in Imperial territory. But not quite the frontier to the extent that, say, the Whatcha-Fix storyline was.
I mean, it sounds like it's kind of urban
That's
versus
super
suburban
stupid.
almost.
Yeah, kind of. That's a good way to put that.
Okay. I'm pretty neutral either way then.
Guido?
Yeah, I don't really. I can't say as I have a preference either way.
Okay. That's fine. We'll go ahead and set it in Imperial territory, or rather, formerly Imperial territory. The Primus system itself is going to be removed from Imperial ownership.
Control.
And there's actually a proper term for this in real life, and I can't think of it.
Territory.
No.
It's being relegated to a territory or a colony.
Well, no. Even that's actually inaccurate. The point is that it's when you declare an area isn't owned by one political
Protectorate
body.
state.
Nope, still not there. It's when you just declare this land is land. It's not owned by X. It's not owned by Y.
It's the moon.
Yeah, you're basically removing territorial control over an area because there is no central government for Primus. So we can't, for example, say this is now Primus territory because there is no Primus government. There are Primus governments. It doesn't work that way. So they have removed this place from the political control of the Imperial military and are placing it in whatever the status is. I know this is the thing. This used to happen in the Middle East and Eastern Europe.
Did you bring a flag?
I hope you guys have a flag.
I can make a flag.
Well, I sure hope so. Icier Shipping is going to be a pretty big name in this setting, by the way. I thought you'd get a kick out of that, Guido.
Awesome.
The next thing I want to cover is, so obviously, let's talk about characters for a second. Obviously, all of the existing races are available. That's not really a big issue, with some caveats on that. If you want to play any of the new races that are that's also available. And if you want to play a race that is not native to Primus, that is also available. I'm pretty much widening the door on this one as wide as it goes for playable races. Now, obviously, you guys are going to be like, well, I don't know. But if anybody has any like concepts, vague ideas, or something you were interested in, or something you want to do for that, like I said, the door is about as wide open as it could be. I've got the full list of species right here.
Yeah, I think I would probably be set on doing someone from Primus itself. The reason being is that essentially I want to be able to say, hey, what's that? And actually be in character as opposed to, do I actually know what this is?
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Sis, I think you already mentioned you wanted to be...
I'm playing a transplant.
A transplant, which can be either someone who... Like there's all sorts of reasons for this. You know, I want to get out of my everyday life, or I want to experience the frontier, or maybe you're just doing this temporarily. You're not actually putting roots.
You said you can't alt-tab right now, can you?
Fine, hang on.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. I haven't sent anything.
Already done. Okay, and now I gotta fix it again.
Just leave it alone. I'll email the stuff to you. You can get to it later.
But yeah, there's plenty of reasons you could either be visiting. You don't even need to live here, technically. I mean, how many adventurers call a specific spot home, you know? You could easily be a freelancer, which is basically a science fiction adventurer, and just be someone who is transiting here, or is a trader, or a mercenary. The gamut. I've said this already, but I want to make this 100% clear. The door is as wide open as it's getting on availability. So, Guido, you're the one I haven't heard from?
Well, I wasn't prepared to have that.
You don't have to. I'm just
option available.
Wanted some thoughts.
Yeah, I was. I mean, the idea of. Let me figure out how to word this so it makes sense.
The hiccup doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't help at all.
Literal no control.
Okay. When you guys were doing the Rogue Planet thing,
Yeah.
what race were you guys playing?
Minecraftian?
Non-applicable is actually more
Non-applicable. Okay. Well, I had to throw that out.
We were playing
had to throw that out there.
Herms.
No. It says he means what race is Xanastma.
Xanastma is...
Non-applicable. She has not a race. She is a unique
Xanastma
entity.
was human. And Zagmus
is non-applicable. He is a
Okay.
unique entity.
Not knowing how powerful the entities are or anything, I was just throwing that out there as a possibility. I think I'm going to agree with third on this one, and probably just stick with the Primus races, because it's probably going to be easiest to identify what's available, what is known as a character, instead of trying to go outside that. So,
You know, I just realized there's some races I need to add to this list. Not that it matters, since nobody's playing any, but I do need to add some races to this list.
Well, I don't know what I'm playing.
Well, as I look down this list, there are two races I'd rather you not be. The Azimdi, like the 11, and
Why not?
you'd have to really work to convince me to let you play
I'm
one
kidding.
of those. And the the Vorsat, because
I don't even know who they are.
they're actually a fairly recurring species. They're basically the largest power in the galaxy that isn't the Empire.
can I play a Tumarok?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I did not expect that answer.
I'm okay with that.
That's going to be fun, because you're going to have voices in your head constantly.
Well, not necessarily. Remember, the Tumarok were another of the transplanted species. Although if you're a native to Primus, I guess you're probably playing one from Primus. Although even that's not necessarily... Oh, speaking of which, let's talk about timeline. I sat down and did some really heavy work on the timeline of the entire setting. As in, the Imperium. And I've decided that we're shrinking things a little bit in Primus, because I kind of have to, and because it makes a lot more sense if I do.
So Primus, a Primus here is less time than an Earth
No.
here.
I'm just straight retconning. Instead of all of the events of Primus were happening, so year 0 is the same, right? But all the events of Primus, rather than happening in the year 349, were happening in the year 149. I just chopped 2 centuries out of the timeline completely. That makes it line up a lot better with everything else, and frankly, nothing was really happening in those 2 centuries anyways. So... and based on some rough models of general civilization building, about 40 years to kind of get the basics going, the near war, the Darakost Accords, and then about a century of development to modern day. All of that makes perfect sense. That also, again, makes it fit better with the extant storyline, with the Hatred debacle, with the Madness situation, and with the Prime. So, it is a retcon. It's a straight retcon. I admit it. It's my fault. I'm an idiot. But... with that one change, it now fits almost seamlessly. In fact, it fits almost so seamlessly, I wonder if I made an error when I was originally setting up the 349 years. Because 149 years fits perfectly. So, that would make this the year 479 in the Imperial calendar. So that's when the campaign is actually going to start. That will be 30 years to the month after... the conclusion of the Primus campaign. So to give you a little bit of an idea of the range there, obviously 30 years is plenty of time for stuff to happen, and several things have happened. But I mentioned that with regards to the character creation, because if you want to play, for example, let me just toss something out here, if you were a Tumarok who is from this other place who was like, oh, hey, Primus is open, moved here. 30 years is plenty of time to move to Primus and become a regular denizen of Primus, right? So you wouldn't have to be a local Tumrock. You could be a, whatever the term would be for that.
Immigrant
member, yeah. You could even be a second-generation immigrant at this point. 30 years, that's enough time for some of the racists for that to happen. So that's available. Again, not really pressuring you to decide right now. Let me give you a little bit of the backstory, just a general overhaul. I need to come up with a couple of specifics with regards to names and organizations. So right now there's only one settled planet in the Primus system. Oh yeah, that's actually another thing. I want you guys to kind of mull this over.
I thought we were the only planet in the system.
No.
They created a system.
They did create this system for Primus, but it was always... long story short, there's other planets here now. Let's just skip through that for a second.
Whether they created new ones whenever they found out the coordinate was open.
There might be some backstory here that I don't want to go into right now. But there are other planets here. There's actually quite a few. And one significant asteroid field, which is also relevant.
Hey, brother.
Duh.
Those little bitty teeny things, the little people things, what are those called?
Legos.
They're called Legos?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The little people that you took off the picture.
The sprites?
Thank you. I knew there was a word.
I mean, that is the word. Those are sprites. Okay, so there's quite a... this is a 8-planet system. Rather on the high end as far as most systems go.
We're not going to accept Pluto?
Pluto... What's Pluto's not a planet. Primus itself is the only one that's inhabited. Now, this is actually kind of important. While efforts have been done to scout out and to examine and to, of course, mine and gain resources from the rest of the planets in the system, no efforts have actually been made to actually set up, biomes or habitat domes or anything like that. Now, there are a couple of space stations. In fact, there are, 3 total space stations at the moment. One in orbit of Primus and 2 others whose geographic location doesn't really matter right now, where people live day to day. Most ships... So, in Primus, the vast majority of ships are ones that have been effectively sold to them, like, third hand. But there's kind of a whole thing going on, politically speaking, and it's been a big push, both politically and economically, to get on their hands on faster-than-light drives. Right now, Primus, as of this moment, as of when the thing is, as far as you guys know, nobody actually has access to faster-than-light drives in the Primus system. So,
as far as we know.
As far as you know. So you're stuck fully at sublight. Now, sublight can go pretty fast, still. And, there's in Star Trek terms, you're stuck at impulse. So it's still going to be a little bit of a trip to go from point A to point B. Ugh. But there's still... that's basically a plot hook. Let's just say that how it is. That's basically a plot hook, the whole FTL thing. But the important part is, if you were to get a hold of a ship, there's like a near 100% chance that it will be stuck in system, unless you want to go to sleep for the next several years as you travel to your next destination, right? The intention, overall, is to keep this campaign relatively contained, at least at the start, in the first arc, if you will, to the system. After that, I'm a little more open to it branching out. That depends on what happens, and that's a little more on you guys than it is me, so... There are trade connections with the Empire, obviously, and with some of the other neighboring systems. Since you exist within Imperial territory, or rather what was Imperial territory, since you're surrounded by Imperial territory, all of your trade connections are going to be Imperially run, which means they're going to be a little more following the rules, but also there's not going to be any crap with it. High quality, but expensive kind of a mentality. So anything that comes is going to be like that. Obviously, there's a lot of resources you can trade out as well. We'll get to that later. Hang on just a second. I need to push this back a little bit on my screen because it's in front of my name. Where the hell's my name? There it is. Now, what was I going into? So, One of the nearby planets, one of the planets nearby, is absolutely covered in this vitriolic, violent crystalline substance that's very, very damaging, very, very caustic, on both a physical level and a soul level. Okay, they have been informed that it is referred to as Chrism, thanks to Imperial connections, and the Empire doesn't deal in it. They refuse to. But they cannot like walk in and say you shouldn't deal with this. You know, that's not Imperial policy to enforce their laws on other powers. So there are quite a few people trying to excavate this chrism and trying to learn how to use it or ban its use or whatever. It's probably the closest thing to your standard smuggled good that the Primus system has right now. There's some other things going on with that place. We'll get to that when we get there. So I mentioned the political and realities. So there are sponsored freelancers, which is something you guys can choose to be if you want. Basically, be a sponsored team who goes out and is a specialist operative group, right? You can of course be mercenaries, or you can be just people who want to do your thing. Your background still, again, I'm being very lenient on that one. But I mention this because there is an organization that's calling itself this is a placeholder name if I'm being 100% honest, but I was thinking of it in my head as the Primus Federation, which is consistent. So after the events of the Primus campaign, the Dominion started to drift apart a little bit, and there were some differing ideologies, and some of the leaders of the Dominion just kind of stopped existing or went away. We're not actually sure exactly what happened on that one. And so without the strong leadership pillar and the fact that there were so many different groups who had been kind of forced together, in the endeavor to avoid another war, because the last one was so damn damaging, they decided to instead form a loose federation. Now, I say federation, it's not quite a fully unified federation. This is probably closer to a true confederation. There is a central body of government which handles certain things, but for the most part, each member state does its own thing. Okay? So again, more of a confederacy. They're probably one of the biggest sponsors of freelancers, and they're the closest thing to a central authority that the system has. Now, you can also, if you really want to, you can also be a part of any of the, I guess, pirate groups, for lack of a better term, that exist here. At least one of which you may recognize. They call themselves the Reds, still. They have shifted
They're
to
not
space.
dead yet?
No, they're not dead. You never did anything about them, really. So they're just like, yep. They actually got a hold of a lot of the... They were really smart about this. When ships were first being introduced and developed, they got a hold of most of the early ones. And so they actually have probably the strongest presence in the space lanes right now, overall. And they probably have a station somewhere, or a habitat or something. They've got some place that they're making birth, wherever the hell that is. So let's talk about the dragons. This is kind of a big one. This is one of the biggest ones that was difficult for me to settle, because of the nature of how the dragons work. What ended up happening, the dragons left with their continent.
With their continent?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
And now it occurs to me, this never was really revealed, so for those of you not aware, there's this place called Irongrad, which was a floating continent, which had a bunch of dragons on top of it. Now, they had some bad history with the Scions and some bad history with the humans, who eventually began to call themselves the Phaeocians. And so, long story short, when certain individuals started trying to broker some kind of peace, as in the wake of what was about to become another world war between the dragons and everyone else, certain members of the Empire, notably one dragon in particular, who you may meet during the course of the campaign, said, okay, look. And so they got the hell out of Dodge. They were convinced to, I should phrase that more accurately, they were convinced to leave amicably. And now they're going off to be left alone, and hopefully they will continue to be left alone.
wherever the heck
wherever
they
they
end up.
are, wherever they may be. The GM totally doesn't know where they are. No idea whatsoever. So,
One pocket.
oh,
No.
what else? All right. So we've got the Federation, which isn't even a Federation. We've got which I like that idea, by the way, of naming it a Federation that isn't, because there's so many places in real life where it's like the Republic of such and such, which isn't a republic at all.
Shut up. Excuse me.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. So yes, there's the Federation. The dragons are gone. The elements have. The elemental ley lines within the last 30 years have stabilized. So Primus is no longer a wasteland, and in danger of deconstructing. I know you guys probably don't even know who these people are, but the Quidiox and Discord have both left, leaving Primus to its own affairs, and the elemental inner planes are still there, and we're just going to kind of say they're basically untapped and leave it at that.
Nobody who knew they existed has told anybody else that they're there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, your characters might not even be aware of the elemental planes even existing. So that's still a thing. What else?
The only one that is now a ley line.
Yeah. maybe he could just like form an avatar or something and be like, "Oh,
Z
to
was
the
known
planes."
about it.
Well, yeah, Z knew about it. Snarg knew about it.
But Z's
too.
not there anymore.
I don't know what Snarg's busy. Snarg's still being revered as the geomancer of the world. He's become actually. All joking aside, I would like to know what Snarg's career has been in the last 30 years. Like, where do you see his path going?
Probably split in many directions. More than likely, when Stonehold decided to reform, we probably want to get a hand in that. I imagine Bloodfox probably, for the most part, fell under the management of people, let's be frank, quite better suited to running an actual company than he is. So he's one of those guys like, I own this place, but you run it, please.
So he's George Lucas? No, sorry.
Yeah, and except he doesn't make Red Tails.
Okay.
And he probably focuses a lot more on making sure that everything remains stable in his future years. Maybe he settles down around near the end, because let's be honest, gnolls don't live very long, and once this campaign starts, he's got a couple years left until he reaches his average lifespan.
Yeah, no, I imagine Snarg is retired and on the later end there.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that because we already started this initiative later on to explore the other continent, but it probably applies to this now, that Radnol is heading up the...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Aburian
the
has
other
been...
content exploration initiative turns into an interplanetary exploration initiative.
Yeah.
And maybe the Bloodfox becomes more like exploration/space marines type thing.
I was actually going to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Sis and I have obviously already talked about what Zariel's story arc is doing. Guido, your story arc's kind of obvious as to what Guido's
You're going
been up
to be unconscious in the ground
for the last 30 years.
Who can I affect subconsciously?
No,
Snarg.
stop.
Yeah,
You
actually,
can talk
we
to the geomancer.
That's true.
Maybe we
That's
talk
true.
fairly often. Who knows?
That's possible.
Like, what's up, man?
Snarg is the geomancer of the planet at this point.
So, I have to say, though, the idea of Snarg elementally talking to Guido as the years progress does, just hit that spot of, aw, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that idea, too.
Yeah, actually, what I kind of imagine is, as it gets more and more advanced, he'll just seem to be talking to himself quite a bit all the time, and probably chalked up to old age by most people, but...
Now, the sad thing is, it would take another very skilled geomancer to talk with you at all, so when Snarg passes on, there's a pretty good chance that, Guido will just kind of stop having someone to talk to and may eventually not be capable of talking to someone, because,
Just lose that ability of actually...
Yeah, exactly. But I do nevertheless like the idea of you and Snarg maintaining that connection pretty much till the end of Snarg's days.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk to you about Ice Year shipping. I just kind of sort of stepped in and made Ice Year shipping really important to the new storyline, and I realized I should probably ask you about that first.
I like the idea. I mean, I'm not sure where it's going, but I like the idea that it's has influence moving forward. So
it just sort of made sense to me that Icier Shipping was really well positioned and very well connected, and had some very smart people that you recruited in the upper echelons. And so when you moved on, and with Snarg Snarg and Zerial both actually, who both are capable of contacting some of those people and being like, hey, it made sense to me that they would be one of the first people to jump on the idea of interplanetary. You know, just boom, let's go. You know, and thus having a dominant hand in that. Not the only shipping company, but the biggest one by far. So I also wanted to make one other thing. Now, this is a bit of a weird choice. I mentioned earlier no FTL, but you do have sublight. I want to make this clear that in this system, space travel is normal. It's like driving. You get in a car. Everybody has a car, right? Well, not everybody, but you know what I mean. So going to the, basically heading to another planet, it would be kind of like
getting on a plane.
Yeah, actually, that's
it's
a good
kind of a little bit expensive, so not everybody can do it, but
it's something that's not exactly
basically everybody
a
has
horrible
access.
thing. And they're not American Airlines, so there's no issues there.
No, you're thinking Delta.
What do you mean?
Delta's the one that's been having all of the stuff.
I was pretty sure American either did it as well or was the one doing it.
Delta.
Am
I wrong? It's United. It is United. My brain is sorry. He only flies Delta, and there was brain dump fart. I'm on 3 hours sleep, so that's my.
Now you're making me look it up because now I'm curious.
No, it's not Delta.
Okay,
it's American.
okay.
You're fine.
No, it's also
it's United. Whatever the hell.
Okay, I was getting it wrong. I was getting it wrong. American are the ones who were price capping their flights. They're the ones who are doing the right thing on that one. United were the ones who are price gouging.
Speaking of which, apparently JetBlue is price capping anyone who is evacuating Florida, $99 for a ticket.
Wow.
We're not in Florida.
I know you're not.
We're in the place where everybody's coming to from Florida.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, no, I've heard about that too. And they're not the only airline doing that too. Which is good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That more people
leave. Get on a plane and leave.
I've actually had this, if I may, real quick, I've actually had friends and family members text me, "Are you going to be okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine."
We're in Georgia.
I'm fine.
We're not just in Georgia. We're in inland Georgia.
Yeah, we're cool. Thank you for your concern. Okay, well, if anything gets bad, leave immediately. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Because I know any response other than okay will not satisfy them. They're just concerned. I get it. It's like when I moved to Kansas many, many years ago, and they're like, okay, if any tornadoes show up, you need to be careful. Okay. I'll be careful.
Yeah, because that's totally something we can just, move out of the way of.
It is. I'll just be like, all right, there's a tornado. I think it's going that way.
They generally travel northwest.
Okay, so I'll
northeast.
go that way. Anyways. Now, I was hoping to get some input from you guys on the name for this campaign. Obviously, the previous campaign was just called Primus, really simple and easy, but I can't call this campaign Primus. My placeholder is Primus System, but that's stupid.
Just going to throw this out there before someone else says it. Primus 2 Electric Boogaloo. All right, we're done.
Okay, we got that out of the way.
I don't understand.
Good. It's a dumb joke. Any thoughts, legitimately?
Are you trying to keep the word Primus?
What the fuck was that?
Something falling.
This?
This is why we throw away our trash.
I ate this yesterday.
Did one of the plastic bowls just pop open or something?
He got some fruit and he resealed it and it created a seal. And then the fruit started to ferment, or the juice started. Yeah, so it just exploded.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I like Primus being in the name, but it doesn't have to be. That would
Is the system called something?
Well, at the moment, the system is called the Primus system, but that's like penciled in. Theoretically, any system under usual galactic terms, a system is dubbed and named and categorized by the people who own it, but nobody owns the Primus system.
So
it's just the Primus system for right now. Oh, also, Sis,
we should call it
the
wrench.
The wrench. Oh my, the wrench system.
I think it would be easier to decide.
No, we should call the campaign the wrench.
Yeah, I think it would be easier to decide on a campaign name once we actually have the characters in mind.
That's true. So we can go ahead and wait on that. And there's so much blank paper with regards to characters, which I'm going to get to something related to that in a bit. Now, so another thing I wanted to cover really quick is... Oh, I think I already... I'm sorry, I was in the middle of that. Right, I was in the middle of saying space travel's commonplace. There are space stations, there are people who live in space stations, there are people who live in their ships. Han Solo style, if you will. It's not that uncommon. In fact, it's relatively common. I think I already touched on this, but just to make sure this is clear and on camera, weaving doesn't work off Primus.
So we do not have weaving as a thing.
It's also forced a lot of tech, basically a lot more reliance on tech, whereas Primus itself had been developing almost universally towards magic-based tech for the last century. And
magic as we know it on Primus does not work off.
So, this is mostly for our viewers, because I've already mentioned this to my players. Some people who have been paying attention to the Imperium might know that the mundanes overwhelmingly outnumber the non-mundanes. You may also remember that in Primus, anyone can learn magic. Anyone, as long as they're willing to put the time and effort into it. And these two facts do not collude. The reality is that Primus, due to the nature of its construction, and anybody living there, and this is also true for someone who moves here, by the way, basically the nature of the ley lines and the construction of the planet artificially connect people to the fantastical and allow people to learn how to do things that they should not otherwise be capable of doing, like fling spells around or lay on hands or what have you. So this is another reason why some people have become settlers or immigrants or whatever term you want to call for it for moving here. You know, living on a planet where magic is normal is actually quite unusual amongst the Empire.
So there's probably a lot of researchers and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be like probably a subplot.
I think I just came up with a solution to the problem that Guido and Snarg were having with rectifying playing a race other than a Primus race. Mm. So I've always known that my character... Well, okay, wow, that implies like I've known about her for
thousands of years ago.
For months.
I have known.
No, so when I came up with the idea with my character, I knew that she was going to be a transplant. So what if she's a transplant because she's, the daughter of one of the researchers that came to research the planet?
Yeah. So technically, you are Primus native. Now.
Yeah, I was a transplant when I was young, so I might have limited outside knowledge, but nothing that would cause issues for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. So, what she's talking about is a total option, or I've already said all I need to say about that. Point being,
I still need to figure out what race I am.
The magic situation is so if you are now obviously for my players, if you want to play a black mage, you can play a black mage. You don't have to stop being a black mage because you leave Primus. You can be one of the very few fantasticals. I actually have never sat down and come up with a proper term for them. Back when I was first writing my notes on the Imperium in college, I referred to them as the Enlightened. For many, many reasons, I don't like that term anymore. So, I've never sat down and come up with a new term. But the point being, you can play someone who is naturally connected to the fantastical, and therefore can continue to be a black mage, a yellow mage, a white mage, a mystic knight. There's going to be no gameplay limitations class-wise placed upon you. Now, I do want to discuss one slight rule change thing. The way this is going to work, and this is probably a little bit influenced by the fact that I've been playing the hell out of XCOM-like games for the last week and a half right now, and this will be relevant to Sis's character, Sisonia, of Cicely. She will be she will be using equipment. Now, obviously, she gets a bonus to use that equipment, but the equipment itself effectively supplants the role, and the equipment has usages, kind of like most charges things would be, and those can be recharged, usually with cost. You need to go and replenish your supplies or your ammo or whatever. This is going to be sort of a general system that is available to you guys if you want to use it. For example, if you get your own ship, which I'd say is actually really likely. In fact, you might even start with your own ship, based on the way I'm thinking of it. Although that's up to you. I'm not going to make you do all the mundane stuff, but like restocking ammunition, restocking fuel, that kind of a thing is going to be kind of a normal aspect of function. And basically, this, just think of it as a fiction to the existing rule set, where you use an item and the item itself kind of follows its own separate rule set, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
In other words, let me put it to you in plainly. In Final Fantasy VIII, your strength stat makes you hit harder with a gun. That will not be true here.
Yeah, but you just used Final Fantasy VIII as an example, so...
I mean, that's the best example. There's literally a character... there's literally a character... You're going to have to convince me, sis. I'm just going to answer out loud. But theoretically, yes. There's going to be... So, like, you go to shoot, there will be a shooting roll. And obviously we've removed skills, but as we've already kind of talked about at the beginning of this session, there will be like effectively a proficiency bonus. Like if she is skilled in using of med kits or healing triggers or whatever, then she gets a bonus to that roll, and then the kit itself or the item is what actually does the action, if that makes any sense. Same thing with a gun. If you have proficiency in shooting an assault rifle, for example, specifically an assault rifle, and I'm going to divvy that up, because I've shot guns before, and an assault rifle and a pistol are not the same damn thing. But if you are skilled in an assault rifle, your chance to hit, basically, is going to go up significantly. Make sense?
Yep.
So that's the general idea with that. You're not just going to be limited to the basics. In fact, technically, the sky is more or less literally the limit. If you want a power glove, or a lightsaber, or a energy blade, or if you want a bomb grenade launcher, or a plasma rifle, or whatever, it's probably going to be available to some extent or another. You may have to pay for it, because the Empire doesn't export everything to non-allied worlds, but there is a strong trade between the Empire and the Primus system, so... Moving on. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So the next thing I want to ask is, do any of the three of you have any questions about the setting? Or any rule clarifications or anything like that? Like anything you want to know about? Like, obviously, we'll probably be covering a lot of this as we go, because I'm just not that great at expositing everything in one bundle. Sis is muted at the moment. I recognize that. You said, oh.
I said, and we're not that great at being able to remember everything in one go.
Yeah, so point being, if you have any questions, if you don't have any questions now, we can move on to the next step.
Not immediately, no.
Now, I'd just like to say really quick, just to get this out there, I'm actually really excited about this. I've been thinking about this a lot.
Wait, actually, I did think of a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Question. Are the playable races going to be updated to the new stuff?
Yeah, I need to really sit down and redo the entire playable races thing. I'm actually legitimately thinking about ejecting a lot of the concept of races mattering for stats. I haven't decided yet. I'm still debating that heavily. Like, I know it's logical that race should matter for stats. It really is. I mean, an ogre should be stronger than a mite. It's just, I'll think about it.
Okay, that was my question.
But yes, I will be updating that. The rules themselves haven't really changed much, as I think I mentioned earlier, so we're basically going to be playing the same game that we were just playing last week. So I'm really excited about this. I really hope you guys are going to enjoy with this. I'm really looking forward to this for a lot of reasons, not just because I get to keep playing with you guys and because it's fun, but because this is going to be one of my first chances to really expand on the Imperium on camera, so to speak. It's not something I get to really do a lot of because I haven't really had the time to sit down and write my stories, and I don't really have a good chance waiting to get them out anyways, even I did. So I'm happy for all three of these reasons.
It's one of the reasons why I was more interested in going into the future option. So
than in the past, yeah. I remember your text about that. Another thing, really quick, there's going to be some generic backstory that everyone's going to be aware of to some extent or another. Like I said, this is occurring in the year 479. In roughly the year 120-ish. I don't remember my exact notes off the top of my head. I have a timeline. To the day, I have a timeline. But roughly in the year 120-ish was actually when the Empire was founded out of the Concordat of Sentient Life. And pretty soon after that was an incident that not a lot of people know the full details of, but it basically led to the foundation of the Empire. It's an incident called the Hatred Debacle. And there's the formation of the hands and the formation of all of the Bastion, which is something a lot of my viewers are probably going to be more familiar with. All of that happened in direct response to the Hatred Debacle. A lot of stuff happened then over the next 90-ish or so years. Then there's this story some of you may remember, some of the people listening to me right now might remember, called the Primes, which happened on one of the Seed World's alternate Earths. Which one of these days I do actually intend to go back and do more work with. I actually literally was thinking about that storyline just a few days ago and advancing a couple parts in it. So that storyline happened, and then pretty much immediately after that was an incident called the Swarm War. Now, everything I just mentioned is stuff that your characters might be familiar with, but everyone knows about the Swarm War. The Swarm War was an incident where everywhere in the entirety of the known galaxy was simultaneously attacked by Grievers. So it was pretty bad. It was 13 solid days of just this mess, and then it just kind of stopped. And recovering from that, and the backlash of that, and the overwhelming mess that was left after over that, is still being dealt with to this day. And that was, as of now, this would be. I could probably do the math on this. Give me a second. 7. About 187 years ago is when the Swarm War happened, and the backlash and the consequences of that are again still being dealt with to this very day.
I'm guessing Griever still isn't a playable race.
No, you still can't play as a Griever.
Well, there go all my concepts.
Damn it!
I mean, no. Wait, I've got it. You'll play a Griever who has gotten a hold of like one of those like remote avatar programs, and so you're actually playing this human over here. But you're really playing the Griever who's just sitting back, like, okay, left, like literally sitting there with a PlayStation controller, just like, okay, hang on. Okay, no, go this way. So the Swarm War happened. You guys are probably at least partially familiar with Primus's more galactic history at this point, which I will now share with you in brief. One of the pieces that was left over at the end of the Swarm War was this thing that they referred to as Chaos. It was a pseudo-sentient entity that was consistent of Type 0 energies, which nobody really knew exactly what to do with or how to deal with. And it was posited by an organization known as the Factors, which handle terraforming, planetscaping things, crafting systems, elemental stuff, all that stuff. The organization, the Factors, said, why don't we try to prove the Imperial ideal in a literal way? Rather than just... I mean, we try to help people all the time. We try to assist people. That's the Imperial mandate. Why don't we take this and make something good out of it? And so they took that and used that Type 0 energy to craft the Primus planet. And then the rest of the system was made in a normal fashion. But the Primus planet is a completely artificial construct, which was developed solely out of this chaos energy. and then they were going to set it up in such a way that over time, over several decades, what was supposed to happen was that chaos energy was going to be very, very, very slowly, gradually, and completely converted into net standard elemental energy, thereby completely converting it into a useful thing and making it, making something good out of something horrific, was the whole idea. Obviously, it didn't go quite that as planned. They did put a cordon over the system, actually, and for very obvious reasons, just in case things went wrong, which they very nearly did several times. In fact, if Guido had defeated Snarg and Abilene, there's a pretty good chance that would have been it. But anyways, you guys won. The other thing to mention here is everyone who lived on the planet, and I do mean 100% of them, were people who were willing settlers. As I mentioned before, there's plenty of reasons for people to go and settle on a new planet. It actually happens semi-regularly. And I don't feel like I need to explain this, but just in case I do, I mean, look how many people have signed up to go settle Mars in real life, for example. It's not that hard of a concept to understand. So a whole bunch of people from tons of different races all settled on Primus. And then there was this race that was crafted called the Scions on Primus, technically the first native race of Primus, who sort of threw a wrench into that one by mind controlling everyone and then vanishing. And when they vanished, everyone lost their memories. So this is a horribly truncated history, and in fact, I'm deliberately leaving some details out. But the general idea here is that this is why only very, very few people are aware of what was actually going on with Primus or its nature or its purpose, and instead we're just living their lives on the only way they knew how to. This led to some interesting things. Quite a few people, obviously, when they came to Primus, were like, "Oh my God, yes, what's going on? Welcome, welcome," and they're like, "Huh?" And what's funny is they've even had trouble properly tracking family lines. If you remember, there's a concept on Primus, and this is semi-relevant, called clans. Obviously, duh. It's really, really important, the whole clan mentality on Primus. That was a big cultural thing. One of the reasons for that was because everyone lost their memories. I don't think I ever really went into the history of this super strong, but when everyone was mind-wiped, it was actually the Burun who came up with the idea, why don't we say, everyone who's living in this spot, you are now of clan blah. And you are now going to identify as this tribe, basically. This group. And so they basically invented family lines without knowing if they were actually related by blood or anything like that. And then those carried forward to creating actual family lines into the future. So a lot of the, just about everyone on Primus obviously is descended from people, some of whom may literally live in the rest of the galaxy, and they would never know it. There's no way of really tracking that after almost 2 centuries of having no idea who you were or what you were. Now, I want to mention one other thing. So obviously, I'm giving you guys a huge blank sheet of paper for this. I really want to let you guys choose whatever you want with regards to class, set of character, etc. So what I was hoping to do is I was hoping to just have you guys talk, and I mean, I'll be here if you need info, but I'm just going to kind of go quiet while you three decide how you want to do what. Do you want to be aligned to an organization? Do you want to be complete freelancers? Do you want to be mercs? Do you want to be pirates? Do you want to be good or evil or bad or independent or just joined or whatever? That's up to you guys. So I'm going to go quiet now.
So I hear there's this organization called the Reds. No.
No! If you really want to, I will allow that.
I'm not inclined to go towards the pirate direction, honestly.
Okay.
Primarily because, especially in the new exploration setting, that's not exactly super interesting. Because they have no incentive to actually go out and do that.
That's true, they don't.
As far as mercenaries or something else, I mean, I don't know, what initiatives are currently going on in Primus that would encourage people to go out and
so there's an organization,
new worlds, meet new civilizations.
So okay, there's 2 major groups I've already designed. Neither of them have proper names yet, so we're going to call them Mining and Scouting, and that pretty much gets across their primary mandate. Mining is hugely focused on all the new wealth of materials because this is a system that's untapped. And I don't know how much you guys know about the concepts of theoretical galactic economics, but an untapped system is oh my god, yes. You know, you've played Stellaris, right? You've played Master of Orion. Here's a brand new system that nobody's touched in an era in which most of the galaxy is explored. Oh my god, go, yes. So there is an absolute wealth of resources in this system. Not just mineral, obviously. There. Sorry, Gary's messaging me. Not just
was
mineral
there a double
resource.
cordon?
No, there was just one cordon.
And the one cordon was around the planet and its moons.
The
So
system.
why is the rest
Actually,
of the system?
I changed my mind. It's around the system. It makes more sense for being around the system. I was literally sitting back and thinking about the physics of it, and given how cordons work, it actually made no sense for the star that the planet is orbiting to be on the outside.
So
of the
then,
cordon.
what would have happened to the? Does that change? How do you explain what happened to the Biotians?
Well, they flew out, and then they started leaving the system, and then they died.
Okay, so it's just a.
All I did was move it out.
It wasn't visible on the planet.
Yeah, no, that again, nobody on what I just said is super spoilers. By the way, nobody knows what happens to the Biotian. Nobody has any idea what happened to them. As far as everyone's aware, the Biotians are still out there somewhere, but no, they're super dead. They're mega dead.
No, the Biotian, the ones on the planet knew what happened to them.
The overwhelming majority. Just to talk this out, what happened was like 95% of the Biotians were like, well, we've basically conquered the planet. Why don't we just go ahead and leave now? Go find other places. So they started building ships, spaceships that could actually go up and out. And they're like, all right, and well, hang on. And due to the politics of the Biotians, they were like, we need to leave behind someone. And they were debating leaving it behind in the hands of a servitor race. But one of the Biotians was really not popular. His name was Primarch. He's the actual leader of the Biotians during the Primus campaign time. And so he was like, yeah, guys, we just conquered the continent's a mess. We haven't even... The dragons hate us. What are you doing? We can't just leave. So they were like, oh, you're right. You should stay behind and take care of the mess. And then they left, and they basically left him with nothing to deal with. You've been in this position, right? You've worked a corporate job. Here, go fix this problem. Oh, no, I'm not going to attach any assets to you. I'm not going to give any tools or resources. Just fix the job. Goodbye. The irony of this, of course, being the fact that Primarch is the one who lived, while all the others are the ones who all died.
I thought there were 13 that stayed.
Yes, there were 13 total actual Biotians who stayed. Primarch and his immediate retinue. So yeah, that's a thing. Anyways, so yes, the cordon was around the system because, again, for the purposes of physics, it just makes more sense that way. So Snarg doesn't want to... So, right, the initiatives. I didn't get to finish answering your question. So, lots of wealthy resources. Obviously, a lot of different organizations are very interested in trying to establish themselves more on a sector-wide level, especially. I say galactic, but really, let's be honest, even in Star Wars, things aren't really at a galactic level. They're at like a sector level, right? I mean, the immediate vicinity. And so they've been trying to say, oh god, we got this, and we need to trade more, and we get this wealth in, and what the hell are credits? We can't work with credits. You know, trying to deal with the problems of suddenly having what is effectively the same problem that Japan had when the United States showed up and said, trade with us. No, seriously. And, so...
We got some blankets. Sorry.
It's okay, it's okay. So there's a lot of people who are actively trying to grade that. And early on, in the first couple of years, most of those organizations would do something where they'd basically throw, like, an entire company would bankrupt themselves and pull loans and, you know, not pay employees for months to get the money to get a ship, which would then go out and start mining. And it was such a terrible return on investment in terms of time that there was another company that came up, mining, again, I haven't decided on a name yet, but the mining company that cropped up and said, it basically said, you can outsource your mining to us. You can outsource that to us. We'll deal with it. And so they don't actually trade this extraplanetary. They go out to the various planets and fields and moons, mine, excavate, carve, process, refine, bring it back to Primus itself, and sell it to whichever companies are willing to buy it, which is a lot of them. So that's the first major one that's pushing for that. Now, you might be like, well, what's the point of that from an adventuring perspective? Even in the last 30 years, there's still parts of the system which are not fully scanned, which, in fact, most of the system is not fully scanned and not fully understood. Efforts have been... basically, early on, people were like, let's go to space! And that didn't work out that well. For the same reason it didn't work out well in real life. So they went out there like, yeah! A lot of people died. A lot of interest waned. Yeah, they didn't know what they were getting into at all.
When you have ships that can physically go up that high,
yeah,
but aren't airproof.
Let's go! Ah! And a lot of the physics of how space work weren't even known to these people. So again, there was a big initiative, and then it became economically infeasible for like everyone to charge out into the stars. So it died down a lot, is what I'm trying to say. So the moon, I guess there's actually two moons. Excuse me. The primary moon has been rather well, I guess scouted is the word I want to use here. It's pretty much everyone knows it. It hasn't been fully excavated at all. There's still tons and tons of resources on it. The artificial moon, which people found out was artificial, has been reasonably well scouted. What's their name?
Has the you-know-what been returned yet?
I'm still
or
debating that.
Or is he still running around?
I'm still debating that. The Luvari, that's the name of the race. So there's a race up there on the artificial moon called the Luvari. And they're like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? It turns out there's only a few of them up there, like maybe 10 million. Not barely enough for a city area. And so those Luvari have been kind of acting as, I guess, advisors and consultants. Getting a Luvari involved is like a huge deal. Like most companies will spend a lot of resources to get one Luvari consultant to help them with interplanetary affairs, that kind of a thing, right? What's up, Guido? I see that face.
I'm developing a character concept. Continue.
Okay, cool. So
I'm going to step away. I can still hear you, though.
Okay. So the two moons, relatively well settled, colonized effectively, and one of the other planets, the Chrism one I mentioned earlier, has been looked into, and a second other planet. So that still leaves 5 planets basically untouched at this point, with Lord knows what's on them.
What type of planets?
I'll decide that later.
Are they closer to the sun or further away?
I'll decide that later. Now, obviously, logically speaking, what I was thinking is that the two that have been... So, when you're doing inter-system, you don't go straight from one point to another. You go around in the gravity well, right? So you do a spiral to get where you're going. So, the Chrism planet is, I can tell you that right now, this is the one furthest from the sun. It's the one way out on the edge there. And the next one they had was probably the next one in, so the next closest in. So I would say, just off the top of my head, you are probably the 7th planet from the sun on Primus. And because of Primus's nature as a artificial world with its own internal mechanisms, it has a far more average biome than it should, given its position relative to its sun. Also, for the sake of simplicity, I've decided...
outside the Goldilocks zone?
Yes, it is definitely outside the Goldilocks zone. For the sake of simplicity, I've decided to make this a classic Type M star. No, or not Type M, excuse me. Type O, I think? Whatever our star is.
We are a Type O.
Okay, it is Type O. Type M planet, Type O star. Typical Type O star. Don't really need to change that up any. And so the other 5 planets are going to be... Obviously, the company mining definitely wants more eyes on the ground with those other 5 planets, but in general it's not super financially feasible to send full expedition teams and get the scouts and get the architects and get the geologists and get the archaeologists in case they find anything like that, get the consultants and get the actual miners and the stress testers and the engineers and the scientists and the other different types of scientists. So there's a little bit of a market for freelancers to go check those out. The other company, I've already forgotten what I called them. What was the stupid name I came up for them?
Scouting.
Now, the scouting company is a little bit different because they are funded in part by Icier Shipping. And the scouting company is far less profit-oriented, but far more, we don't want to find new resources. We want to find new worlds, is kind of how that works. The scouting company is, we want to explore our system.
We're looking for life.
Yeah, we're looking for life. And if we don't find life, we're looking for living quarters. We want to actually expand into the system. Now, there's actually been some cultural backlash against that for obvious reasons. And of course, people are very divisive on this topic. Should we leave Primus? Remember, nobody actually lives off Primus, not counting a few space stations or ships. So, should we leave Primus? Should we actually go out and expand onto the other habitat zones? Are there other habitat zones in our system? Maybe we should leave the Primus system entirely and just, big mess about that. But the scouting company is definitely one that's like, let's get out there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this right now because even your characters would be aware of this if you're even remotely affluent. The scouting company has a lot of rumors circling that it's very shady because they don't really give a damn about things like laws or morality when it comes to accomplishing their goals. Now, I'm not saying they go around murdering civilians in the street, but they're the kind of group who would have no problem giving an older ship to a group of freelancers and saying, go find us something, even knowing they're sending them into horrific danger, or might never hear from them again, And they have no problem completely bypassing the normal rules and laws of, interplanetary trade. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I'm sorry, I didn't even mention that. There was an accord that was reached with most of the governments on Primus, which basically regulates the way interplanetary transit and trade work right now. Interplanetary is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Going into space and moving through space and moving goods through space is something that's currently being heavily regulated. And the scouting company does not give a crap about those regulations. So, those are the two main companies that are currently initiating getting out there. Oof. I'm trying to think. Ow. If you want me to throw you another hook, it would be very easy to set up a certain couple of politicians as basically under the desk. That's how that goes, right? Under the table. Thank you. Under the table, funding scouting operations, or exploration missions which are not sanctioned. Bless you. Which are not legal. And again, I want to stress that right now there's so much red tape. Like, for example, let's say a senator or a representative who represents the Nevere really wants to go ahead and get out there and see what's on Planet 3. Well, if he wants to do that, he has to go to the committee. The committee has to approve it internally, which is unlikely to happen. If that committee approves it, then it has to go to the Nevere actual board. Once the Nevere board look at it, which they will probably also disapprove it, then it has to go to the actual Federation council meeting where it might get on the meeting notes, and if it does, then you get the idea. There's a lot of things in the way.
It has to go through every government.
It has to go through every government thing, and almost every level of the government has actively been pushing against that initiative. There's a lot of political weight right now that's trying to keep people on Primus. So, I guess that answers your question, I hope. I talk way too long. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See, he agrees. I talk too long.
Yes. No, I'm trying to think then.
The other two of you can think as well. I'm just pointing it out. Give in to the thinking side. That's not thinking.
I sent you emails.
I know. You made me raise my eyebrow. That's true.
I did?
Yeah.
On what? Which image?
Well, hang on. So the second image is too not there. Second doesn't work.
I don't even remember what the second image is.
The first image is barely there, so that probably wouldn't work. Maybe. Like if I was really specific,
You just
on
have to color change.
The first one. Yeah. The third image is yeah. I don't know what the third image is. That was the one I was raising the eyebrow on.
It's a sprite. It's a very tall sprite. And then look at the additional email.
Yeah,
After that.
I really don't know what to make of that.
It's me
In space.
in space.
You are in space. You need to put
It's
on more
me.
clothes.
Well,
She
since-
she is fully dressed.
Oh, okay.
That's a space
You
suit.
need to put on different clothes.
Well, it seems like you already have an idea of your character. Why don't you tell us what that's about, and background and stuff?
I don't know.
Nope,
Oh, no.
nope. You.
So
Well,
I am
If you want to convince me to play a Vulcan, now would be a good time to do it.
no, I don't actually want to play a Vulcan. It's just the idea popped in my head that I could that sort of mentality would be one that I would find amusing to play, I guess. But I don't have to be a Vulcan to do it, because Vulcan comes with additional things, and I'm not good at the additional things.
So really quick, here's just a quick rundown of the races you're not familiar with. There's the Antethans. Those are effectively Ents, with everything that implies. Obviously a naturally magical race. They're the Piltoth. They're short. I have a lot of short races. Those guys are an entire race of people who really strive for technological achievement, and they walk around on hooves, fur, and a few scales around the eyes. Think kind of... I have no idea how to describe this. They're them. They're short. Moving on. There's Lamias. You're actually familiar with them. Those are available. I talked about them. If you really convince me, I'll let you play a dragon. I don't mind that.
That seems like there'd be a space problem there.
Not really. Dragons are
They
fine
don't.
in space.
They
No, I mean
they
like
don't
spaceship space problem, like physical space.
Oh no, you'd have to be a midget dragon, obviously. But
I had too many midgets last campaign. Disallowed.
you can also play any of the elemental races.
Dave says there's a
Can
there's
we
a
have a midget
squishing
race?
problem.
yeah. I mean, there are draconic ships. You could just be flying around in a draconic ship, and the other two of you are like, "Hey, hey, hey."
I don't know.
Don't worry, I have my towel.
There you go. We're good. We're good.
Let's not do stowaways. That tends to end up with
No, it'll be fine.
too many crazy
It'll
shenanigans.
be fine. I'll have a road crew come through and destroy Primus.
And then rebuild it. Wait, that's spoilers. So, I don't know, it's tough. I actually made a list of a couple of ideas before then.
Well, sure.
I was going to just, I came up with 6, and I was just going to randomly roll for them.
I would
Hang on.
love to hear your ideas.
I would too. Also,
Well,
I
the
rolled
first
a 1.
Okay, well, the first one was like, hey, let's just do the standard TNG thing. It's the next generation. Just play the next generation of characters, because that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
The other one was play someone from one of the organizations like Blood Fox or Seer Shipping or some other one that we'd established because they probably would be able to do stuff, especially Seer Shipping. The other one I had was, and I actually have to ask about this, what are Lycans doing?
So I mentioned the organizations of Primus are not exactly united.
Yeah.
So there's been a war going on for about 30 years now.
Okay, great.
between
Again?
between the Daracost and the Harpies.
That was going on before.
Yeah, it's actually already had been going on while Primus was happening. It's just it was in the Dyers, so nobody ever really paid attention to it, obviously. So most of the lycanthropes, I could settle that war. I haven't decided to, but it would be easy to settle that war and be able to play a lycanthrope. You would still be a lycanthrope and bound to your master, but
what if your master's dead?
If your master's dead, then you are. We've actually already talked about this before. If you lose a master for any reason whatsoever, you are simply slotted in by other Daracost to another Daracost. You gain a new master. And there are still Daracost alive, which means, yeah.
Okay.
So we have to nuke the Daracost race in order to free the lycanthropes.
I haven't actually thought about what would happen if there were no Daracost left. I'd have to consider that carefully.
Divide by 0.
No, there will always be the one Daracost left who is now and is no longer.
So anyways, moving along.
The other one was the typical explorer type, who really just gets on board the easiest spaceship he can, just because he wants to go see the stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's somewhat independently wealthy, so he funds it. It's the classic professor getting on board the ship and funding the expedition story.
Yeah.
Even though has no idea what he's getting into.
3-hour tour.
Yeah. Like, this will be fun.
I was thinking the Atlantica Disney movie, or Atlantis, Disney movie, but yeah.
Actually, I was thinking more of, which admittedly they're all based on about the same source material, the Treasure Planet version of the Founding Professor.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it's actually a space thing.
Airspace, but still.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I like
it's basically Spelljammer. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah, it really is. It really is Spelljammer.
They don't say it, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And another option was completely random, where I literally roll an entirely random character with all the traits random, all the origins random, and see where it leads. It's been done before. That can be fun.
Okay. Thoughts?
And the last one was, this actually was something that I had considered before you started bringing up the mining stuff. Someone from a company who's basically going out looking for resources and surveying and such. And those were my ideas.
Now I demand that one of the two of you respond to him.
I mean, those are my ideas for my personal character, but feel free to steal. For origin. Roll for origin story.
Well, the two ideas that I was having, one is probably not going to be allowed. Actually playing a Daracost.
I rolled an 18. What's my background?
I don't know. That's not on my list. It's 1 through 6.
I would debate a Daracost.
I rolled a 1.
That's the next generation. Like Abilene 2.
Do you have any ideas other than just a Daracost?
I play Space Abilene.
Yes. I've got an idea for the campaign name. It's Primus in Space.
I will straight up stab you. We should call it Primus Craft.
Well, no, he doesn't know where you live anymore.
That's right. You moved, didn't you?
I did.
So I don't actually know where you live anymore. Oh, don't let me forget, by the way, Thor 3. We need to talk about that. Anyways.
When's it come out?
Well, tickets are available now.
Yeah, that's
the point. We can talk about it later. We can talk about it later. I just don't want to forget. So, if you want to play a Daracost, give me something to go on that's not just a Daracost, and I'll answer.
Well, I was thinking obviously a pure, just because having anything else
in space could be gross.
Not necessarily in space, but interacting with any of the other, I'll say, Imperium races is going to be ugly.
Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Especially since it would be an unknown race. The Daracost are effectively native to Primus, so yeah.
Couldn't you actually bring in Lord Kamatai?
You could, but again, I'd want a little more to go on other than a Daracost before I answer that.
So I hadn't really thought about it much further than that because I was fairly certain that you wouldn't be allowing that kind of character to leave the planet anyway. So I hadn't given it that much thought.
Well,
My other thought is actually a Moorsman.
Okay.
Being more of like a liaison between Primus and the exploration company or the race that's on the moon.
Okay. For the record, I would have allowed a Derikos to leave Primus, just for future reference. Well, Sis, I demand that you join in this conversation.
Alright. Have been.
Well,
My brain is on a stutter stop at the moment. And
Fine.
so
You cannot play a Borg.
I
I've
wasn't
got an idea.
suggesting
We
that.
should all get on this family ship and go and explore new alien races.
That's a great idea. Oh, what's that? It's a cube. Let's go scan it.
Hold on, honey. You put your brain in a trash composer. Just leave it there.
Oh, God. I like
You know, you say a
Voyager,
family ship, and all of a sudden I'm thinking Lost in Space.
Well, it kind of was. I don't know how much
Not
of
the new
Voyager
one.
you've seen, Guido.
We're not going to have Joey as our pilot. Let's not do that.
Okay, good. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Oh, my God.
Yes. All right. You know what? I'm going to kick this off a bit. I'm going to roll for the origin then.
Okay.
The list that I've got.
Okay.
Let's see what I get. I have the Explorer Professor one.
Uh-oh.
Woohoo!
Yes.
That's gonna be fun.
Okay, so I've decided then, since no one else is deciding things, I will start deciding. I'm going to assign characters to you guys. Guido, you're the lovable comic relief. Sis, you're the evil one. No, okay, seriously though, for a moment. You're not a professor.
Okay.
You really love something. Pick a field.
A field of study.
Yeah. Like you're an
There's a lot of
avid
stuff out
follower and enthusiast.
Could he be like a
Zoologist.
amateur astronomer or something
sure.
like that?
Sure, but the point is, he's actually a politician.
Oh, a politician. Okay.
Yes, you are actually a member of one of the major factions.
Great. He's a half elf.
He's a half elf, half what?
I don't know. I was going to roll for that too if that
Okay.
came up. So let's see. You've got. There's more than 20. Can't make this easy, can we?
Just roll a 20, and we'll hang on.
Because there's several you
let me pull up
cannot
the
be a
race.
half of.
Yeah.
You can't be a half harpy, half elf.
Yeah. Well, if I
How
roll,
much-
if I roll
Actually,
a
you
20,
can be a half
I'll-
harpy, half elf, but
if I roll a 20, I
You
will
wouldn't have been.
roll a d4 for the last one because I think there's 23 on here.
okay.
You can't. Well, you can't be a night elf.
I can't be a half elf, half elf.
Yeah. So,
If I'm a half elf, that doesn't make sense. So actually, we got perfect 20 then if I exclude those.
yeah, you can exclude night
Yeah.
elf, and half
Let's
elf.
see. Are you serious?
What?
What?
I'm gonna re-roll this because I actually got Noel.
Oh God, that would be so.
You are Snarg's son.
I didn't roll the TNG one. All right, let's try this again. I got Might.
No.
Okay, I'll re-roll it.
Just
All
no.
right.
Just cutting that one off.
I got Dwarf.
Okay.
You're a elf with a tail, and instead of
No,
having
no.
ears, you just have fuzzy ears.
Ironically, half elf, half dwarf is the most common half elf race by far on Primus, anyways. But...
Yep. That I rolled a 1 with d20, and that's a dwarf. So
Okay, so a half elf, half dwarf, who is a politician as a member of such and such faction, who is an amateur insert field here.
Yes.
You said zoologist, so that works. So trying to find if there is plant or animal life anywhere else in the system. because there's no info on that really. Obviously since you're aware of this, let me give you a little bit additional info on the Chrism planet, the 8th planet from the sun. So we'll just call it Primus 8 for simplicity here. On Primus 8, there's life,
Get my ear on.
but it's horrifically deadly and dangerous and kills anything near it. Also, I think I'm losing Third. Third, come back.
I'm still here.
He's back. He's back. Okay. Camera was
your
frozen
camera
and I
froze.
wasn't hearing anything. So there's horrifically dangerous life on Primus 8. It is so dangerous, in fact, that that's one of the biggest, I'd say the second biggest danger to mining Chrism is what are being dubbed Chrism beasts. These things have no linear structure to them. Most of them literally are chunks of rock that levitate in one bundle but aren't physically connected to each other. And usually...
Wait. Is
What?
this one of the planets that was connected to your political campaign?
Yes. Very good.
I didn't even play in that campaign.
And these... they bleed and ooze and otherwise drip extremely caustic material, which is believed to be liquid chrism, which will basically melt whatever on contact. Just whoosh. And they're very strong and they're very hard to bring down.
Okay.
So you're aware of that as
And
a
they have
zoologist.
portals that pop up every now
No,
and
no,
then.
no, 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 no,
Just-
No. So then there's obviously there's no like native vital purchasings.
There you
And
go.
now you're
That
gonna have
seems
to
to
fix your
fix it.
camera stuff.
Okay. There seems to be
Brother,
there's
you're
no
gonna
like creatures or plant life
fix
on either of the moons. It's fixed. There's no there's just the Luvari on the artificial moon. The moon is a barren rock. There's nothing living on it. Same with the artificial moon, obviously. And on
It's a
the
moon. It is not.
and on Primus 6, Primus 6 is
It starts with an
primarily
E.
you can do it.
It starts with an E. It's the one they found in undersea ocean that has the plumes.
Europa.
No, that's not it. It's the other one. In
I have too many fantasy and sci-fi names in my head to know real life names. I'm sorry. Hi, Sibri.
Hi, Sibri. Did you get a haircut? Did you get a haircut? Oh, there it is. It looked like you cut it off again.
I mean, there's
I can't
nothing
see the top
wrong.
of my
It's
head.
just we're wondering. On
Can you still hear me?
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You're frozen.
you're frozen, but
I know. I don't know
and
what's
now
going
you're
on.
frozen in a different picture.
that's the best pose right there. Just let's leave you like that.
It's true.
I don't know if you can see your own face right now, but it's fantastic.
I can.
So Primus 6, which is the other one that's being explored, is primarily a caustic and vitriolic
Insert person.
atmosphere. Think Saturn, basically. Relative equivalent
Oh,
of that
hi,
kind of a
Phelan.
place. Mostly storms, methane, sea, probably something other than that, but people aren't
Where's
really
the
sure
thing?
yet. You know.
Oh, he's under your chair.
Also a very valuable use of resources, not minerals, but I forget what it's called actually, but it's something really useful, and I can't think of it. It's the thing that every science fiction thing ever uses gas giants for, and I can't think what it's called.
The
Methane?
hydrogen refuel.
Ammonia,
Hydrogen and methane. yeah.
hydrogen.
Carbonite chambers?
No carbonite yet. So so that's about all you know. Third's character about the system and the zoologist of that. You have heard rumors that the planets closer to the star, which have I'm saying this incorrectly. You have heard rumors that the planets that are closer to the star have habitable biomes for actual life, and that's something that's been really interesting to you. But for obvious reasons, your attempts to officially get that to happen or officially reach out to that have just been running into a wall, right? And it's gotten to the point where it's just ridiculous. And so you have finally decided, screw it, I'm just going to fund my own expedition. I mean, I'm a corrupt politician, right? I've got tons of money.
Sure.
You don't have to be a corrupt politician. In fact, actually, let's just determine that. Are you corrupt in the terms of... let me rephrase this.
You should roll a dice, and if it's odds, you're
Roll for
corrupt.
corruption.
And if it's evens, you're not.
Well, I mean, so I can think of 3 possibilities here off the top of my head. You can be a decent politician who just happens to be well off financially. You can be a decent politician who decided to bilk tons of money for this expedition. Or you could be a corrupt politician who is therefore very wealthy. One way or another, you got the money to bank this.
Sure. Let's see. You know, I'm gonna leave this.
You don't want him to be a corrupt
an
politician that stole the money?
Yeah, the higher the
No,
higher
actually,
the number, the more toward that direction you are.
No, actually, well, according to Dice Roll, I'm actually like the most honest politician ever.
Okay, so you're a decent politician. Do you have a preference on which organization you serve?
Well, you said that the organization or like government.
Well, I was thinking government.
Well, you said that they split. They not split, but essentially it's a confederate.
Yeah, there's the.
So
there's
what are
the,
we actually looking at right now?
So okay, there's the Confederacy Federation. That
Yes.
consists of the old major nations of Alluvia, Stonehold, Nevere, Sho, and Osteth. All of those are a member of the Confederacy Federation. The Olthoi have left. They're gone.
I said, screw this place, we're out of here.
They did. They legitimately said, we're out. We can't do this, we're gone. So they bailed. The Grievers are gone too, if it matters to anybody.
For no particular reason.
For no particular
at all.
reason. That's definitely not anything suspicious.
And there's now a giant crater where centrally. Oh, hi, little one.
Aw.
There's now a crater where central used to be, for no particular reason.
Yeah, crater was dug up basically. So there's just a big hole. So there's
by
2
someone
craters
getting
like right
up.
next to each other. Because there's crater, and then there's what used to be central, which is now central crater. But anyways, I'm getting off topic.
All right, so go ahead and list the organizations again.
Okay, let's start this over. Alluvia. Let's do this clockwise.
Okay.
Alluvia, the Tusker Nation, which doesn't have a proper name, but we'll come
The
up with a
Tusker.
name. So the Alluvians, the Tuskers, the Sho, the Osteth, the Nevere, and the Stonehold. Those are all part of the Confederation.
Well, I rolled the Osteth, although that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, I suppose,
Well,
for a half-elf dwarf, would it?
it doesn't matter. Like, the race lines have blurred a lot in the last 30 years, so it really doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, Osteth it is then.
I was going to say, there are a couple of other options. There's the Elemental Nation, basically. That's kind of composed of what was left of the Order and the
And
Titans, who
Fairies.
you never actually met, and a few other specific bodies that kind of formed their own thing going on. They basically are founded in the Crater region. They're the ones who settled that area. There are, of course, the Daracost, although that's a little bit different. There's also the colonial state of, I don't have a name for it yet, which are the people who live in Aburian, the place that Bloodfox managed to reach out and figure out what the hell was going on out there. And what they found was a freaking empty continent, so it was pretty much ripe for settlement. And what happened was basically, I mean, I hate to one-to-one, but North America, Britain, Portugal, you get it.
Yes.
So they are currently a colony state, but due to the nature of their parent state not being a unified faction, they're effectively an independent state, so you could be from there as well. And that colony state, not to spoil too much, is probably going to split up soon.
Man, they just can't keep themselves together. All right, let's try this again then, because that's a few more options.
While you're rolling, I have an unrelated question.
Okay.
Can a desolate teleport off planet?
No.
Desolates can't
They teleport through the
anymore.
ley lines.
I thought you said desolates
Wah,
can't teleport
wah.
anymore.
Oh, that's a good point, actually, because of that. So yeah, desolate teleportation actually has been removed.
In 99.9% of cases.
Yeah, there are literally, I think, 5 people left, Desolates left, who can teleport still. I can probably name all of them.
Zariel.
Is Desolation still affecting?
No.
No. Desolation has been cured as much as it is possible to be cured. Yes, that's right, Guido. You actually cured Desolation. Which is funny, because anybody who's been a longtime viewer of Primus knows there was never intended to be a cure for Desolation.
Exactly.
So...
Well, there was one.
There was one cure, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Alright, so I re-rolled with the new options on the table, and I got Stonehold.
Okay, I'm with that.
So, and I think that probably makes a little more sense, too, with the race, even though the lines are blurred.
Okay, so you're a decent politician from the Stonehold...
It would also make sense that you would be in Stonehold, too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call you the Republic of Stonehold.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Republic of Stonehold, which is a part of the Primus Federation.
No.
Which I'll probably just call it that, the Primus Federation. There's no real need to fancy that up.
Okay.
Confederacy.
PFs.
Well, it is a confederacy, but I love the idea of calling it a federation. I really do. Because real life does that all the time. That's been true for centuries in real life. Anyways, so yes, you'll be a part of that, technically part of the Federation. Now let's establish how high up the chain are you. So you can be, basically you can be part of the Republic of Stonehold, specifically, or you can be a representative of the Republic of Stonehold to the Federation. So let's start with that, the two sides.
Okay. I think the former option would probably be better.
Okay, so you're actually a little lower then, lower on the totem pole.
Yeah, that makes sense as to why you can't actually get the funding too.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I'm okay with however high up you want to be, up to and including a member of the actual senators, a member of the Congress of Stonehold.
Let's see.
Let's say just off the top of my head, let's go with, United States equivalents. Mayor, city representative, or I guess it would be, that's right, mayor, city representative, state representative, country representative. Let's do those 4 tiers.
He'd be state representative.
Okay, so you're pretty high up, but not super high up. I guess that's actually in the middle, now I'm thinking about it. So you are a state rep, so in the United States equivalent, you are a senator. And therefore you are, let's actually make you a literal, let's go ahead and copy the U.S. government a little bit here, in relative terms. I'll probably set up the specifics of the government later. But you are a representative, not a senator, okay? So
House of Representatives.
Yeah.
Elected by a district, not for the whole state.
Yeah. And so you are someone who definitely has a voice in the governance of the Republic of Stonehold. But you are a voice in a big crowded room.
Yes.
Which is also easier for you to get hidden in, to kind of fade into the background. And you've definitely been trying, at least I imagine you've been trying to push, more funding towards interplanetary exploration, interplanetary scouting, interplanetary, even just something basic like setting up fricking satellites, which is something that's been very hard fought against. Is something that you've been pushing for and not really succeeding at, It's like,
Yeah, because everybody's just being politicians, of course.
Yeah, so, of course. So...
You're dumb. Let me show you how dumb
Why would we go
are.
to space? Oh, I like it, too. Why would we go to space? That's ridiculous. So... okay. So you're a half-elf, half-dwarf, who is a state equivalent representative. Well, you're a clan representative. You're a representative of one of the major clans, and the basis of government in Stonehold is each clan is treated as a sovereign state within the Republic of Stonehold. So you are a representative of a clan, we can decide which later, to Stonehold proper, to the Republic.
Okay.
And you are reasonably well off financially, and you're a bard.
I won't be after this expedition, but...
No, you won't. You're dumping your money into this.
Basically.
This also means I'm going to be a little more lenient on your starting ship, than I would otherwise be. I was basically going to give you a garbage scowl equivalent.
We have garbage scowl, a more recent year model. Yeah.
That's true. We could give you a more recent garbage scowl if you want. So now let's try to drag the other two into this.
I go to a tavern.
Okay.
No,
you immediately are killed by the locals.
No,
For being a politician.
I mean, I've got context. I'm sure I can get.
So you're thinking
So
you're going to hide.
I mean, I imagine that actually Icere and Loudfox, and by extension, pretty much everyone else. I mean, their leaders are probably based out of this place.
Yeah, very likely. Yeah.
I can go and actually send out some feelers for some experienced people. The whole I need a captain, I need a blah blah blah, I need a blah blah blah.
Yeah. So sis, what were we gonna say?
Well, my character, the
medic.
kind of the whole original idea of her was she is a 1.5 generation immigrant to the planet. 1.5 means she was born elsewhere, spent early childhood elsewhere and then migrated to the planet, but grew up basically on planet.
Yeah.
So her parentals are, or parental, or guardian, or whatever, depending on whatever the hell she is, would be either a civilian trading organizations coming to this system to look at the resources, etc., or have been an imperial, probably lower tier, definitively lower tier imperial government official coming to assess the damages and continue monitoring of the planet given a variety of factors. And now that she has come of age, in whatever age her culture determines is coming of age, she's now ready to go off and have an adventure or whatever. So she could be some potential ties to both Marshall's academic endeavors as well as his political spaciness.
I'm just looking some stuff up. I am listening.
That was kind of the end of my thought.
Okay.
No one says anything.
So, seeking confirmation or something's buildings upon.
Sis, you're gonna hate me, but I love the idea of you playing a Protoss.
I don't remember what.
I know you don't know what a Protoss is.
Can you tell me how to spell it? I'll Google.
Protoss.
So we can tie up everybody a little bit. Guido.
Oh, it's from Crafty Thing.
This from Crafting of the Stars.
So what were you saying to Guido?
I was interested.
Did you catch
in what his concept was?
So I have a new concept.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Oh, you're gonna play out. Wash. We do need a pilot.
You do need a pilot. That's absolutely true. I can't deny that.
Just play one of the Alan. How do you say his name? Tudyk.
I've heard him say it as Tudyk, so I assume it's Tudyk.
Wait, hold my beer.
No.
I assumed it was here. Hold my beer.
No. I brought up a picture of Wash. So, okay.
I mean, seriously, is that who you want to go towards?
If we're going to be on a ship, we're going to need a pilot.
Yes.
So
somebody does have to. I mean, I hate to use the term "bite the bullet," but that's how it is said so often, and be the pilot.
Well, with
because in a lot of other systems,
Imperial technology, there is autopilot.
That is true,
but
it'll limit you.
In a lot of systems, when you get volunteered to be the pilot, that basically means you put all of your skills in piloting and you stay on the ship.
You don't have to do that.
In
Guido.
this system,
I'm
not
just going to
really.
tell you that right now. I'm not going to force that on you. And even if I have to break lore to do it, I'm not going to force you to do it because I hate that.
You're going to break yourself? Oh.
So,
Ugh!
I'm assuming that piloting skills would be intelligence based.
Yeah,
We're not doing skills if we're using the new system.
that's true.
So as long as I have a character that's at least semi-intelligent,
Yeah.
I'll be able to fly the ship. So
Okay. What I would probably do is I'd probably go ahead and give you basically give you free feats effectively.
I mean,
And those
it's-
free feats allow you to be a particularly better pilot than the other two. Could
Perfect
be.
job for career points. Just like put some specializations up there or something.
yeah, like Guido had for engineering.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. Like that.
advantage on engineering roles, advantage on piloting roles.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So then the other question simply becomes, what race would I play? What would be an appropriate race to have experience with spaceflight?
Well, you said you wanted to play a Primus native, which
Well,
is...
I don't have to at this point. I mean, expanding that concept to the space pilot.
He should play Star Trek with the
I'm not playing
angry
Geordi.
ones.
Klingon.
Yeah, those. And then you could beat more people's ribs out with a wrench.
So let me.
You can play a Klingon Scotty.
So I don't want to spoil too much about other Imperium stuff, but all I'm going to say is the reason Sis would have to convince me to play a Vulcan is because Star Trek's over there in a bubble.
Because
It exists. In
It
the
exists
universe.
in this universe, but it's over there and it's in a bubble. So, I mean that's a huge oversimplification. But the point is, if you really do have your heart set on playing one, we'll make it work.
No. I love the universe of Star Trek, but it seems unnatural.
Okay, so
So-
off the top of my head, here's what I'm thinking. You can play.
Ooh.
I actually think an orc would be really cool. You could paint it red.
Console no work.
Smash!
Well, no, or
Get a special
orcs do
ability.
gain bonus skills to start with.
Do
so
a
there you
strength roll in order to try and force the ship to fly in the direction. you want it to fly.
percussive maintenance.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yep.
a percussive maintenance roll. So, what was your idea, Guido? That you just oohed up?
Remember that idea of a pure Daracost?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So their lifespan is unknown.
Yeah.
What if he was from before as a pilot?
Okay. So.
They were created on Primus.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really hate to crap on that idea, but yeah, the Daracost were built
There are other races that are pre.
like a Luvari.
be-
You could play a Luvari. You could be
Or,
the
Lord Elf.
Luvari. Well, Lord Elves. We'll get into that later. You could be a Luvari who third character. That's his name from now on. Would obviously have wanted to seek out someone with your kind of skills and expertise, and dumped some money on your face to be like, hey. And so that would also explain why you're not.
I like
just
the
a
idea that he
pilot.
walks in and just like we did with the water, you want some water, he walks in with a bag of money and like dumps it on your
That's
head.
going to be
You
your
want
new
some money?
thing. That's your new thing.
There's
Hang on.
one weird
Money.
null center that
Money.
does that. I can't figure out why he takes water all the time.
Seriously, I don't understand. Just, money works way better. Oh yeah, your webcam's working.
Yeah, I'm trying it again.
So yeah, you could play someone who was hired. I like this idea too because it explains why you're a pilot and also an adventurer. Because
As
you
opposed to driving
opposed
a
to-
merchant ship.
yeah.
What can you describe them again?
Brief history. So the Luvari.
Physically.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fairly humanoid overall. Skin type leans its so their skins are I don't want to say translucent, because it's not like you can see their skulls and bones and meat, but it's more like their skin seems kind of see-through, but it's like their entire body is see-through. Just a little bit. Because Luvari are partially energy-infused. It's one of the reasons why they have such long lifespans. This is something they did a long time ago in their own history. As a species, as an entire body of species. And so their appearance tends to be very particularly crafted and very meticulous in its appearance. So, because literally every single hair follicle, every thing on their forehead or every digit of their hands has to be specifically crafted over time in order to look how they want to look, and it takes a while to reach an appearance that you particularly enjoy. So there's obviously some variety here. Just to give an example of some Luvari I've designed in my head, there was one who is effectively bald, but he actually has hair starting like right about here. I don't know if you can see where I'm gesturing to.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually comes down very far. So that hair just kind of lays down around him down to about his, I guess, waist or so. And he has somewhat long, sort of drooping eyebrows and pale blue eyes. And he doesn't even have a mouth because he doesn't need one. Again, partially energy being. And he's rather tall, and he's very, very skinny, and he pretty much has to have devices to propel him. Basically he has anti-gravity, I guess, braces, I don't know what else to call it, around like his elbow, his shoulder, his wrist, his
So basically
leg,
you can
his
look
knees.
like anything you want to, with the exception of a few things.
Yeah, it's pretty open. You do have to have the translucent thing. You do have to have the energy-based thing. A common thing in their culture is the long hair thing. It is a very normal thing to have a fairly large amount of hair. There's another character I designed who has a beard that is absolutely insane. It actually goes down to his feet. Just huge beard. So hair is a really big thing, culturally speaking, but I will not limit you to that.
He says as he's
You could be
stroking
too
his beard.
young to have made your beard.
That's also true, because again, changing your appearance takes a really long time and careful effort. Like most Luvari will spend like an hour, as they're designing their appearance, will spend an hour in the morning just, working on that for years.
So yeah, we'll discuss stats, but I like the sound of that.
Okay. So we've got a half-elf, half-dwarf clan representative of the Republic of Stonehold who has an unknown class at the moment. A Luvari who has been hired on by this gentleman as a consultant and pilot for this expedition, also unknown class. And a cyborg? I mean, we were talking about that.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Or a Protoss. I mean, I'd be cool with that, too. Play Protoss.
yeah.
You don't have to. You can play whatever.
So I was kind of thinking more in the technology-based direction. But I was thinking, when I said technology-based creature, I didn't mean Borg.
I know.
Borg are
I was kidding.
consumed creatures.
I was kidding.
No, I was thinking more like a, toward the direction of, in the same vein, but not this. Like the Transformers. Where machine is the base of life. But I hadn't really, I don't know, I'm tired.
So hang on. Let me refresh that. So you wanted the machine to be the base or the biology to be the base?
A biological machine.
So you mean a human?
No.
I'm sorry. Okay.
But yeah, I could, what I would probably end up going in the direction of is just human, a modified human.
Let me toss an idea at you. And you don't have to answer right now, but I want you to bug Kazra about what he thinks of this idea, because he knows what this is.
Kazra, pay
Geth.
attention for a second. A what?
A Geth. Geth.
What's a Geth?
Probably not a literal Geth, but I mean, like, in terms of physicality, a Geth is kind of what I'm thinking.
He's not paying attention.
I'm listening.
I asked you what a geth was.
Oh, you were asking. It's from Mass Effect. It's,
I don't mean literally a
Right.
geth, again,
Future
to clarify.
soldiers.
But something along that direction.
He's not helpful. You'll have to explain it to me later. And
Just-
these look creepy.
What? What are you looking at?
I searched geth.
Hey, let's see what I get when I search.
Here,
geth.
I'll show you the image I'm talking about.
Okay.
Oh, those ones are creepy.
There's
This one's cool looking.
there. I emailed you the link.
Okay. Anyways, so if that doesn't appeal to you... See, the problem is there's not a lot of cybernetic species that aren't evil and horrible in some way. No, I'm serious. It's a very common science fiction theme. for
No, I
science
know.
fic- Oh, God, that's a hopper. No wonder that looks so creepy. I mean, that is a geth. So you get the general idea. Look up a geth prime really quick. Image search.
These are red.
I don't care about the color. It's literally paint.
They paint themselves?
They're metal. Why don't... Well, we'll work on your race
I
in a
will-
minute.
Yeah,
Let's try to establish your character mindset. So your medic is what you want to lean towards in terms of speciality.
Yes.
What's
That's
your...
gross.
Like, I'm trying to think backstory / personality. We've got, like, a general idea for Guido's character. We've got a general idea for Third's character. Their motivations are kind of, like, very loosely defined, but you're a medic, so help me out.
But I'm a medic, so help.
I mean, it's your job! Come on!
Oh,
What's up?
keep talking. I had an idea for an image for Zan, but
Okay.
um,
So, like, what are you trying to get out of this, sis, other than a paycheck? Because obviously Third's paying you. But what is this
So-
other than a paycheck?
She was brought here, spacefaring previously in her childhood, has memories of it. I'd say probably made it to here around 10-ish,
That's older than I was
pre-puberty.
thinking. Wow, okay.
Huh?
No, that's cool. That's cool.
No, what did you say?
That's older than I was thinking.
1.5 means they have knowledge and schooling in their original culture.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Not
continue.
extensive, primarily in the other culture, in the
Yes.
new culture, but yeah.
But continue.
So she has memories of, and probably fond ones, of spacefaring to get here, etc., and was probably primarily spacefaring beforehand due to, diplomatic or whatever base government official job rentals had.
Do you want to be an elemental? I know it's not cybernetic, but it's kind of in the same direction. I'm just thinking of stuff, and that would fit one particular idea. So here's the way that would fit. Your mother / father / progenitor could be an elemental, one of the members of the factors. Now, an elemental, an imperial elemental is not the same as a primus elemental. Let me start with that. You've played WoW. You know what elementals are like. There's a huge variety of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the snake guys are elementals, for God's sakes,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to just fire guys. So, several of those do have, biological functions. They have children. They can craft children in the case of, like, the stone giants. So, the factors, of course, consist of a huge variety of elemental creatures and people, and the factors would be one of the prime people. In fact, I shouldn't say would have been, were one of the groups who came here to deal with this. This was their baby. This was their pet project. And so your mother, I don't know why I keep saying mother, but I'm just going to keep going with it. Your mother is the one who, in this idea, is the one who came here as part of her work with the factors to try and figure out what's going on, do tests, smooth things out. Ended up really liking the place. As an elemental, she would be very comfortable here. This place is bathed in elemental energy, right? So she would be content with, like, settling down and actually staying here, which is why she's still here 30 years later.
But
You, by total inverse, have spent the last 20 years here, like,
growing up,
you're growing up and being like,
maturing.
God. And
It would also explain. That would also explain why I haven't hit my maturity age, because elementals mature slowly.
Exactly. And so then you would be someone who would be well invested in not just getting out into this system.
I want to go see what space is like again, damn it.
Yeah.
I remember it.
And so I like the idea that your mother kind of makes a compromise with you. Oh my goodness, there's a picture. It's a cool picture.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see me, but so I like the idea that you that your mother is like, we can't hear you, kid. I like the idea that your mother is like, okay, listen, I'm not too comfortable with you leaving the nest completely, so I could obviously arrange for you to get a ship to go back to Imperial space. You know, that's easy for me. But why don't you dip your toe into things first? Why don't you stay local, right? And so she's the one who encourages you to try and get a job looking into things system-wide. You know, which by Imperial terms, system-wide is basically, you know, the neighborhood, right? So, did you hear? Now, I know you were distracted, but did you hear anything I just said?
Yes. No, I've heard everything that you just said.
No.
I like that idea.
Okay. So then...
Sorry, I thought I was giving visual feedbacks to...
I know. I just wanted to verify. I know you're
Dave
your
and
brain.
Mini Dave.
So that determines your overall motives, and also why not only you could be interested in this expedition that Third's character's setting up, but why you'd probably go for cheaper than usual, because you just want room and board at this point, really.
Can you put me on and let me go experience shit?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you need spending money, but most of the... I can just imagine Third's like, okay, I want to hire... So he gets a ship, whatever ship Third gets, you know, and then he hires Guido, and then he looks at he looks at the other 10% of his budget, which is left, and he's like, whoa, okay.
I still have to hire the rest of the crew!
Yeah, and then Sis comes along, and he's like, what, you'll go for this? Okay. I'm okay with that. Let's make that happen.
Mom said, this is what Mom gives me an allowance. Can you match that?
Yes.
Can you read this eye chart? Good. Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. Done. Sold. So I like that idea. If Sis likes that idea. Guido, did you ever find your image to send her?
Yeah, I found 2 of the 3 that I was looking for, and now I'm just finding an appropriate one for the 3rd.
Okay. Third, what do you think about these ideas that we're tossing out here?
I think it sounds fine.
Awesome. So that we still need to narrow down race for Sis, but that's still a huge variety of elemental races, so that isn't super necessary right now. We just need to figure it out at some point.
So there you go. There's 3 cyborg-esque pictures.
I've seen that one, the first one.
And
I had not seen that one. I liked that one. The second was pretty cool.
So that primarily...
And I'm familiar with Chappie.
So that primarily leaves class. Now, I haven't heard anything from the 3 of you about classes.
Well, you said that going in the direction that I want to go, which is technology-based medic, we'll have to talk about that, because it's like, what other things come into play with being a fantastical? Because elementals are by nature.
Yes, you would actually be a fantastical by your very nature.
Yeah.
So you could be a mage by nature. You will probably have a racial ability that is magical.
Yeah.
Although that depends on your race, of course. Guido, any thoughts?
Can I play a simulacra?
We actually talked about that, if you remember.
I know.
And yes, but we'll have to completely redo the backstory if you're being a simulacra.
Yeah, I know.
But I will allow that.
But that would be fun.
That would be funny. Guido, any thoughts on class for yourself?
Especially if Snarg was Snarg's son.
Yeah. Snargus,
I mean, I can still do that. That's the first one I rolled.
Now I'm playing a simulacra who was sent by you-know-who.
Yeah. And then Guido should... Well, Guido's playing a Luvari, so he's not connected at all, but...
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
The discordant ley line of Guido doesn't reach out to the moon?
No, I'm afraid
No.
not. So class thoughts, Guido?
I'm not sure what would be appropriate for that pilot type concept. So,
Well, part of the reason I was leaning towards a Luvari is because it makes more sense for a Luvari to be someone who is not hyper specialized, if you know what I mean. You know, you're not just a pilot; you're a pilot who can this and who can that, right? That's the original reason I tossed that out as an idea.
so really, what you're telling me is you want me to play a bard.
No, you don't have to play a bard.
I thought Snarg was playing a bard.
I haven't said what I'm playing.
We still don't know what Third's playing at all.
So mine, on my end, I mean, from what you've told me about what bard is, that would make sense. But rogue would also make sense. Because bard is skill-based, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And if you set up rogue right, you could basically be a rogue who sneaks in and through combat without provoking attacks of opportunity, with completely avoiding attacks and AoE attacks, and then using your healing technology in order to heal people. So that's actually a totally feasible build if you want to be the healer. Oh, that's another thing I was going to mention. Maybe you guys should be a healer, DPS, and tank this time. Just as a thought.
How's healing?
That's where I was getting into my...
Well, obviously white magic is the same.
Okay.
As far as healing, so there's two components to how good technological healing is. Well, I guess actually there's three, excuse me. There's your skill roll, duh, that's obvious. That's going to be reliant on your career points, kind of a thing. There's going to be the quality of the tool and the quality of the, for lack of a better term, ammo.
Yeah,
And
I'm going to be Aveline, but with just...
Kinda, yeah. So those three things are what factor into technological healing.
I'm gonna be a hybrid of Aveline and Guido with defibrillate.
With defibrillate. Now,
Just not on the ship, please. Whatever you do.
I like the ship,
I
damn
will
it.
use it more controlled than Guido did. I'm not going to view everything, including the skiff, as a friendly to be targeted.
Let me ask
love
this
the whistle.
before I say the class.
Okay.
What level are we going to be starting at?
So that's actually something I forgot to discuss. That's something I wanted to discuss with you guys. Obviously, my mental default is 1. 2 is also fully acceptable. Past 2, we need to discuss it. Like, what do you guys think?
I'm okay with starting off very low. As a matter of fact, I'd be okay with doing it.
It would make very much sense for my characters to start off as low level.
Guido? Ironically, Guido, you would be the exception by default, since a Luvari would probably be decently high level. But there are ways to explain why a Luvari is low level.
Well, I could start off at a higher level and not level.
That's also true. So that's one method we could use. There's actually a term for that in D&D. I can't remember it because I almost never use it. Deficit or something like that. Like if you play a drow. It's the most common one I know about.
Level adjustment.
Yeah, level adjustment. Yeah. Which kind of sucks, actually. Never play a race with level adjustment unless you really want to, guys at home.
All right, so I'll do a fighter then.
Okay, so that's hilarious.
So he's the tank.
Well, it's funny because, I mean...
Or the DPS.
Obviously, you say fighter, you think warrior, but anybody who knows D&D knows a fighter is just a selection of health and feats.
Yeah, it's a blank template.
It is a blank template. You can turn a fighter into just about anything. That's the whole point of a fighter.
Like I said, he is DPS or tank.
Yeah. So, Guido, let me ask you this. Which would you rather? Would you rather the backstory that explains why you're low level, or have a level adjustment for the first however many adventures? I'm okay with either.
That's a tough call.
Off the top of my head, I'm thinking if you're going to do the level adjustment, we'll start you at 5.
Okay.
And then we'll literally just we'll make this really simple. We'll just hold the reins back until everyone else is 5. Then you can level 2.
Yeah, that's probably more appropriate considering the backstory of being a Luvari.
Okay. In that case, you have now played 2 races which start with L. You so
I don't see
have,
how that's relevant.
do you have any thoughts related to class then, Guido?
Not a bard. Not a bard.
You don't have to be a bard. I really don't. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. So Zan's playing a cleric, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, basically a techno cleric. She will probably be a rogue base.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'd be okay with either the tank or DPS role. It's just going to depend on what kind of stats the Luvari have. And
So the Luvari are good at everything. That's kind of their shtick.
good at, yes, but stat-wise...
Are they basically Sclavi type in stat-wise?
Well, actually, no. The way it's very similar concept. So, for those of you who don't know at home, the Sclavi gets a +1 to all attributes. That's their racial bonus, and that's not changing. What I would do for a Luvari is I would basically give you 5 stat points to allocate however you freaking want. You could turn those into career feats, or you could turn those into attribute points. So you start off pretty damn good at whatever it is you want to be good at. Now, I mean, just for the sake of pointing this out there, most Luvari don't change careers ever. They usually pick one thing, and they really, really, really get good at it over a long period of time. That's kind of their shtick.
Okay. Well, third, what are you thinking? I mean, you were kind of the tank last game.
Well, no, I was deep last time. You were the tank.
Until he became the boss, and then I became the tank.
Yeah.
You were an excellent tank until you died.
I was planning on going more tankish
You're thinking
and
tank?
slash
Okay.
ranged this game.
Ooh.
Wait, a ranged tank?
Yeah, I like that idea already.
Okay.
With a lot of equipment fueling that actual thing.
Yeah,
rather than-
yeah. The more I'm thinking about that, the more I like that idea.
Mhm.
I see where you're going with that. At least I think I do. I can't see you, of course. I just see insert person, but I know you're there somewhere. Yeah, ranged tech take. I like that concept. Anyway, sorry. I'm not a part of this. I'm just the GM. I don't get to decide this stuff.
I'm gonna have to bow out.
Well, we're kind of done, basically. I just wanted Guido to kind of think of his idea, but you don't have to decide right now. We could just cut this off. Oh,
Well, you guys can keep going with Guido talking. We've kind of hit a stale point for mine.
this is true. So feel free to be thinking about any elemental race that you'd like to place this idly over the next week.
Elemental race from like what genre?
Anything.
Where?
Use Warcraft if you
constitutes-
can't think of anything
What
else.
constitutes an elemental? Just a creature that is of elemental energy types?
Kinda, yeah, basically. Also, the 8 elements still apply. I think I've told you that already. Just think Warcraft elementals.
You said the 8 elements exist outside of it. They're just not as.
They're not nearly as dominant.
What about your other one that had like 12, including insect?
That's a little different. That's not actually. Those aren't elements in the
Okay.
strictest sense of the word.
Okay.
Those are other
That's all I
things.
needed to know. I will search my things. Dave, it was a pleasure. Your little one is adorable.
Yes. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the recording. Before that happens. Hi, viewers. You can see him on camera now. So.
The man behind the curtain.